AEW definitely went all out for All Out with 3 massive debuts. Basically, all 3 of them were expected, but I didn't expect them to do how they did for 2 of them. So overall, this All Out was probably my favorite, though there were a couple matches that just did not live up to expectations, which was a bit of a bummer. But we also did have probably one of the best cage matches ever.
Yeah, I would say that of the cage matches that I have watched, that was by far the best. And then, yeah, there were like 1 or 2 matches that just, I don't want to say fell flat, but because of the placement, the crowd wasn't as into as they should have been. Not that the matches were bad. Like, if you put those matches on a Dynamite or a Rampage, they would be great. But for the show as a whole, it was sort of a lull a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I think for the most part, I think I came out 100% on my picks, except for I didn't pick Ruby to win the Women's Casino Battle Royale. I think we had the list of, I put Hikaru Shida, Riho, and Ruby and Thunder Rosa being at the top of the list. I don't know if that really counts, but other than that, I think I actually picked every match correctly, which is a rarity on this show.
I don't remember what we picked, but I do remember one specific match. I was kind of right, and we'll talk about that when we get to that particular match.
Okay. I know, well, I think one of the ones that I think we disagreed on, I thought the Lucha Bros are going to win, you thought the Young Bucks were going to win.
Right.
And the other one was, I think you thought Eddie Kingston was going to win that TNT title. Or was that Trey?
Nope, that was me. Right. And as soon as it began, and that was the first match, I actually posted in the Discord, with this match being first, I'm rethinking a title change here.
Yeah. All right, so before we get into the show, let's introduce this show. You're listening to the That's Wrestling podcast. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live over on Twitch and on YouTube, so you can follow the links in the show notes for that. You can follow us on Twitter at That's Wrestling1 with the number 1. Comments, question, feedback, you can send those to Eric at that'swrestling.com or on Twitter, and then you can join our Discord as well. The link is in the show notes for that as well. And with me tonight, I have Darryl W. Perry. He's at Darryl W. Perry on the Twitter. How's he going?
Pretty good.
All right, so let's get into this show here. We'll even start with the buy-in because it was a really, really fun match. This is probably the best buy-in match that they've done. And I think it served what a buy-in pre-show free match should do, and that is to hype you up to see the card. It's not just another match that they like, well, this isn't good enough to put on the main card. This is a match that's supposed to hype you up, and I think it delivered exactly what it was supposed to. We had Orange Cassidy, Wheeler Yuta, Chuck Taylor, Jungleboy, Luchasaurus versus Angelico, Jack Evans, Matt Hardy, Isaiah Cassidy, and Marc Quen. And this was just a load of fun. And that's exactly what it needed to be. So Matt Hardy, actually, the first thing, he wants Orange Cassidy. So he pushes Chuck into the corner, who then tags in Wheeler. Wheeler then gets pushed towards the corner. Orange Cassidy tags in, but then Luchasaurus tags himself in, and then Hardy bails because he doesn't want to mess with Luchasaurus. Jack Evans ends up getting tagged.
I loved how, I forget who it was on commentary, said, yeah, I don't think Matt Hardy's going to be able to push him back into the corner.
Who was on at that point? It was probably just Tony...
And Excalibur.
Yeah, probably. Evans gets thrown around by Luchasaurus. Jungleboy gets tagged in. He hits the... I don't even know what to call this, but Luchasaurus stands in front of the corner, and Jungleboy basically jumps over him, but catches his feet on his shoulders, so he goes forward. So I'm calling a stalling senton, something like that.
That sounds good. Or assisted.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of a stall because I see it like a nose stall in skateboarding. That's kind of what I feel it seems
okay.
Like. He hits a springboard arm drag. Wheeler gets tagged in. The Hardy family office basically work over Wheeler for a while. Everyone gets submission holds onto everybody. Like one person from one side gets a hold, and then another one grabs a hold on that person, and we have a giant chain of submissions going on. And Luchasaurus gets in,
except Matt Hardy.
Except Matt Hardy and except Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus gets in and he just bowls over the entire crowd and tosses Private Party around. And then Matt Hardy distracts him and Private Party attack from behind. And they're celebrating towards the hard cam. Orange Cassidy hits low kicks, the weak low kicks on all three of those guys. And then Hardy, he takes out Hardy, but then Private Party beat him up. Everyone flying around everywhere. Wheeler hits a splash on Angelico as he is the legal man. Private Party hit gin and juice on Wheeler. Orange Cassidy breaks it up. Hits a Rana with hands in his pockets on Angelico. Hits a double Rana on both of Private Party. Hardy hits a twist of fate on Orange Cassidy. Jungleboy hits some crazy moves, which I can't even describe because it was just insane. And TH2 and Jurassic Express have the first that I have ever seen chicken fight, where Luchasaurus had Jungleboy up on his shoulders and Jack Evans was on Angelico's shoulder, and it was wonderful. It was the greatest thing. Jack Evans gets knocked down, so Jungleboy's still up on Luchasaurus' shoulders, and I don't know which one it was. One of the guys from Private Party tried to do a cross body onto Jungleboy off the top rope. Jungleboy turns that into like a Spanish fly off of Luchasaurus' shoulders, and then Blade gets involved. He was at ringside. Marco dives off of Luchasaurus' shoulders onto a pile on the outside, and Jungleboy taps out Angelico with the snare trap. This was just fun all around. And the chicken fight, I have to say, was my favorite spot.
Yeah, and then the Doomsday Device, where Jack Evans gets knocked off of Angelico, was basically a Doomsday Device, only Angelico wasn't trying to set it up as such. But this match has made me realize that I want to see so many matchups, like Angelico versus Jungleboy could be a really good match.
Mm-hmm. If they give it time, definitely.
Give it time and let them do a lot more mat wrestling than the high flying.
Yes.
Like let these two guys just like trade submissions back and forth.
Mm-hmm. Post match, the best friends were going to go for the hug, but TH2 attacks, and then the Butcher makes his return, and he beats up Orange Cassidy. But then a ton of baby faces run out. I saw John Silver in there, 10, Dante Martin. There are probably others. They run out for the same.
I remember commentary mentioning Varsity Blondes came out.
Yep.
About half of Dark Order came out, and then Dante Martin. So yeah, it got a lot of people on camera, in a way that didn't just seem like, oh, here's a lot of people that we're getting on the screen just to get them on the screen.
Yeah, and then after all the baby faces send Hardy Family Office running, there is a massive group hug, and John Silver is like giddy out of his mind. It was so funny.
Yeah, and it looks like his shoulder might still be bothering him because he didn't really lift his arm up. I don't know if that's me seeing something that wasn't there, or if he still is having some shoulder problems.
Yeah. Next up, we had Dan Lambert was with Men of the Year, plus some other guys from American Top Team from the UFC side, or the MMA side. And Dan Lambert and the Men of the Year just cut this crazy promo. I didn't really write anything down on this one, but Dan Lambert is such a good promo. I love him so much. He just tears everything down, and it's great.
Yeah. Yeah, it basically sounds like Dan Lambert is now going to be managing Men of the Year.
Sounds like it, yes. Which is funny, because Ethan Page is a really good talker already. So, having... And Scorpio Sky's pretty good. So, having, 3 good talkers... That's one of the things with AEW. There's a lot of people who have managers that are that are fine talkers, and they don't really need a manager. But this is just to have another mouthpiece that they can... what's the best? They can get heat on their team or their representative, and they end up getting heat on themselves as well, which then just makes it more interesting.
Yeah, there was something along the lines of "we'll fight when he says we fight."
Yes. All right, then we move on to the actual card, the main card, and we kick it off with Eddie Kingston versus Miro for the TNT Championship. And oh my God, Chicago loves Eddie Kingston. They were going crazy for him, super loud. And one thing I liked when Miro was coming to the ring, they gave some match stats, and they said that his average title defense was only 7 minutes, and he has the shortest title defense in AEW history as well, for a minute 53 or something like that, against Fuego. And I thought that was a really nice little thing to throw out there, and kind of made it feel even bigger.
Because that's not something that you see a lot in wrestling.
Yeah.
But you'll see that stat in boxing or MMA. This person has X number of first round knockouts, or they've got this number of unanimous decisions, this many TKOs. But yeah, in pro wrestling, you don't really see the this person wins their match on average X number of minutes.
Yeah, one thing that I've been starting to harp on now is AEW, they need to go back to doing their time calls during the matches, because that's one thing that they kind of stopped doing, and I think it needs to come back, especially for the TNT Championship matches, because they're only 20 minutes. So, I don't know how long this match went. I didn't check the time, but I thought it was starting to get up there. And I'm like, oh, are they going to go to a draw? But since there were no time cues, I had no idea how far away from the 20-minute we were.
According to Wiki, it was 13 minutes, 22 seconds.
Wow, I thought it was way longer than that. So, yeah. So I want the time cues back. I miss them.
Yeah, time cues would be good.
So they lock up right away, but then Miro bails as soon as Eddie tries to grab on for an exploder. But once Miro gets back into the ring, Eddie hits a bunch of chops and then does hit an exploder. They fight on the outside. Miro sends Eddie into the barricade, thrust kick into the barricade. Eddie hits a boot and tries a crossbody, but Miro, he tries a crossbody off the apron to the floor, but Miro just grabs him and spins it around, taking his momentum to the floor. Eddie gets run the ring post a few times, so Miro's targeting the back a bit. Miro covers, but Eddie kicks out at one and flips off Miro with the middle finger. Strikes from both guys. Miro drops Eddie with a punch, hits a few elbow strikes to the face, and then Miro hits a standing drop kick. He misses a splash, and Eddie hits a head kick. Miro blocks a dive, but he ends up getting hit with a Saito suplex when he's running back into the ring. They exchange strikes. Eddie hits two more Saito suplexes for a 2 count. Eddie hits a dive with a little elbow shiver to go with it. Hits a fisherman suplex for a 2. Miro hits a ton of kidney strikes. He has a massive bruise on his chest from all the chops that he's gotten. And Miro hits a suplex out of the corner. Eddie pulls off the turnbuckle pad, and when he's going backwards to try to save himself, and Miro puts on the game over, but Eddie manages to make it to the ropes. So the ref, Bryce Rensburg, who is one of Eddie's longest time friends in wrestling, is trying to fix the turnbuckle pad, so he's not paying attention, and Eddie hits the back fist, hits the DDT, but the ref isn't paying attention, and he has a bit of a delay. So Miro kicks out of the cover, and then there's a giant "you fucked up" chant for the ref. Eddie starts to send Miro into the exposed turnbuckle, but once again, the ref gets in the way, and Miro kind of grabs onto his shirt, and he back kick low blows Eddie, and the ref doesn't see this. Then he hits a switch kick, or a couple switch kicks, and then gets the pin. So Miro retains, and the ref screwed up and screws his friend out of winning the championship. I thought this was a really, really good match. Extremely good opener. And these guys worked such a high pace. That is probably one of the reasons why I thought it was more like 17 minutes and not 13 minutes. Because they just went balls to the wall. And I didn't know if Eddie was going to be able to keep up with that pace for that whole time.
Yeah, and it's also a really good, interesting use of the referee distraction. Where you give the ref a legitimate reason to be distracted. Yep. By, I need to fix this part of the ring because this shouldn't be like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he was calling over the ring crew, can you fix this? Because I have to deal with this match, but somebody needs to get this pad back on here because this is dangerous. That type of thing.
Yeah. And it's also the first time that I can recall, and it's probably happened before, where there's an exposed turnbuckle and the ref stops, by getting in the way, stops someone from being pushed into said turnbuckle.
Yeah, I've seen it before. I think it happens actually pretty frequently in New Japan, though part of that frequent is that the ref gets slammed between the person and the turnbuckle, but I have seen them stop it happening as well and not get slammed in, or they turn their back and cower a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think AEW has done it, so it's the first one for AEW.
It's a thing that isn't very frequent in American pro wrestling.
Yes, I'd say that.
Let's put it that way.
Yep. So really good, fun match opener, show opener. And then we go on to Satoshi Kojima versus Jon Moxley. And Kojima got a great response from the crowd, and which was good, because then later on, that pretty much geared up, we're going to have good crowd responses for some of these New Japan guys. Kojima offers a handshake, and then there is a big GCW chant. Because Jon Moxley is now the GCW champion after beating Matt Cardona the night before.
And I don't know if you noticed, but Mox was wearing a GCW hoodie.
Yes, I did notice that.
His way out to the ring. Mm-hmm. And commentary also did a really good job of giving some background on who Kojima is. Where they're like, he's the only person to have won both the G1 and I forget what, Wrestle Carnival or something. That's the All Japan equivalent. He's the first person to hold the IWGP and the All Japan title at the same time. He's, what they say, like 7-time world champion, X number of time tag team champion on the lower third coming out. So, lets people know, like, oh, this isn't just some rando guy that we brought in. Like, he's a legit high-level athlete. Mm-hmm. And he's actually younger than Chris Jericho.
Yeah, he's like 44, I think, right?
No, Kojima will be 51 in, like, another week.
Oh, who was I looking at? I thought was older than he really was. Somebody I was watching. Oh no, it was Kanemaru. I was watching Kanemaru's match with El Desperado and Kanemaru's match with Ishimori and El Phantasmo today, and I looked up how old Kanemaru was. He's 44.
Okay.
Different Japanese guy. So Kojima offers a handshake, and Moxley ends up giving Kojima the finger. They start off with chops at each other. They start throwing forearms. Kojima hits a shoulder taco. There's loud dueling chants. Moxley hits a dive on Kojima, hits some knee strikes. We get some big chops in the corner. Kojima switches it and hits a spattering of machine gun chops. Kojima hits the elbow drop off the top rope. They both bite each other in the forehead. Kojima hits a DDT on Mox on the apron, and then another DDT in the ring for a 2. More dueling chants. Moxley blocks a Koji cutter, puts on a rear naked choke, and then hits the release. I don't even know what to call this move that he does all the time. He like picks up for like a suplex, but then just kind of throws the dude and continues the guy's rotation, but he's standing upright. I don't even know what to call that.
Some kind of release suplex.
That's what I
some
wrote.
Sort.
I wrote release suplex, even though it's a little different. Moxley puts on the arm bar. Kojima gets to the ropes. Moxley hits a running knee. Kojima blocks and then hits a vertical brainbuster. Slow to cover, though, so he only gets a 2 count. Kojima pulls off the elbow pad. He takes a swing and a miss. Moxley hits a German suplex at a super high angle. They trade lariats at each other. Moxley with a running high knee. Kojima blocks a paradigm shift, hits a lariat. Both guys slow to get up. They exchange forearms. We get another dueling chant. And then Kojima with a rolling elbow. Mox comes back with a rebound lariat, puts on the bulldog choke, and Kojima gets the ropes on that one. Kojima hits a bunch of Mongolian chops. Moxley ducks the lariat again, hits a paradigm shift, and then pulls him up for another and gets the win. I wrote in the chat, can we call the DDT version the paradigm shift? And when he basically does almost an underhook suplex / brainbuster, the Death Rider? Like, they're different enough, they should have different names.
Yeah, they are different, and like calling them the same thing, I get confused of, is the paradigm shift a double underhook DDT, or is it a double underhook brainbuster plex?
Right, exactly.
Oh, it's the same thing. Well, no, it's not the same thing.
Completely different. But overall, I thought this was a really good match. Extremely good reaction from the crowd for Kojima, because those dueling chants happened. I marked it 3 times during this in my notes. So I'm glad that people know who a lot of these New Japan guys are.
Yeah, and you mentioned at the beginning of the show there were 3 surprise appearances.
Oh yeah, there's 4.
There were actually 4.
There were 4, because after the match, when Jon Moxley is about to celebrate, music hits, and it is Monaro Suzuki, and the crowd goes absolutely crazy, and there's a massive holy shit chant. He walks on down to the ring and walks up to Moxley, and he takes a step back, and he unzips his jacket and takes it off, and then they just start throwing forearms over and over and over. It's great because it was a good visual, because Jon Moxley actually cut his elbow during the match, so there's a lot of blood on his forearm. So now it is all over Suzuki's shoulder, and they are laughing at each other as they're beating the crap out of each other. And then Suzuki puts on the rear naked choke and then hits Moxley with the Gotch pile driver. Crowd goes nuts. And this was awesome.
And they're fighting on Dynamite on Wednesday.
Oh, and they sang Suzuki's song as well.
Yes. Yeah, and Excalibur said, I never thought I would hear Kaze Nina Ray in AEW.
Yes. So that was all. I was when it was coming up to that part in the song, I'm like, God, I hope they do it. God, I hope enough people know what's about to happen. And they did, which was great.
Yeah. Murder Grandpa is amazing, and he could have excellent matches with basically everybody in AEW.
Yeah, there are so many people I want to see him have matches with.
And most people, if you just were to see Murder Grandpa do his thing against Moxley and then said, oh yeah, he's had some really good matches against comedy wrestlers, it'd be like, what? You're out of your mind. But he's had some really good matches with Yano.
Mm-hmm. I would come on
to see. I would like to see Suzuki versus Orange Cassidy, with Orange Cassidy just playing up the comedy aspect of his character.
Definitely, because that's what made Orange Cassidy versus Pac so good.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite Orange Cassidy matches. So I think Orange Cassidy versus Suzuki would be amazing. And I really hope that kind of happens. All right, we move on to another championship match. And this is kind of one of the things about this card. They did it in a really weird order, because they stacked 3 championship matches up at the front of the card. So by the time 4 matches are over, 3 of the championship matches have happened. So kind of weird how they stacked that. I think they should have moved stuff around a little bit.
Yeah, I would have put the Paul Wight QT match a little earlier.
Yes. Unfortunately, what they did at the end of the show makes sense, because I would have put Bucks Lucha Bros last. But then what they did at the end of the show,
you've got to put your world title as the main event.
Yeah. So I don't know the best way they could have ordered this, but I think they definitely could have moved Jericho MJF earlier. And I think starting off the show with CM Punk and Darby Allen probably would have gone better.
Yeah, and they also could have put the Britt Baker match after the Casino Battle Royale.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would have made actually a lot more sense.
Because my thinking was, oh, with the Britt Baker match happening early, they might have Britt lose and then enter as the Joker.
Yes, I know you floated that one, but I had no expectations of that coming to pass at all.
I wasn't expecting it, but I was like, maybe they'll do this. But at the same time, it does seem kind of WWE because they did something like that a couple years ago.
Yeah, that's very Becky Lynch going into the Royal Rumble when she wasn't in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
All right, so we had Kris Statlander versus Britt Baker for the AEW Women's Championship. I thought, regardless of the placement of this match, I thought this was probably both of these ladies' best normal wrestling match that they've had in AEW.
Yeah. Really good match. And both of them had a second at ringside. Although Britt may have had 2 seconds. I forget if...
She did.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, I forget if both Rebel, not Reba, and Jamie Hayter were there. And then Orange Cassidy was there with Statlander.
Yes, that is correct. So we start off with some back and forth and some mat wrestling to start. We have a really fun boop spot because Kris Statlander was trying to boop Britt Baker, but Britt Baker did the DMD and had her finger sticking out. So Statlander grabbed her wrist and ended up booping herself with it, which was kind of funny.
Yes. Yeah, that was really good. Interesting use of somebody's own finger to do your maneuver.
So we get a handstand mule kick out of the corner from Statlander. Statlander goes up onto the top rope, but Britt pulls her down with this nasty neck breaker. Orange Cassidy stares down Britt's goons to keep them away. Britt hits a bunch of stomps. Statlander comes back with a running forearm and then a running knee in the corner. Britt hits a sling blade. She hooked Statlander's chin and just wrenched her head down. Statlander avoids the curb stomp and hits a inside hook Falcon Arrow for a 2 count. Britt spikes Statlander with a DDT for a 2. Britt hits a thrust kick to a kneeling Statlander, and then she goes to grab the glove from Rebel. Statlander blocks a kick and hits one of her own. Britt rolls through a Big Bang Theory attempt into a pin attempt. Then she pulls Statlander flatliner into the turnbuckle. Britt goes up top. Statlander follows. Statlander powers her up because she started to actually go down. She was going to go for the avalanche suplex. She lifts her up, but then Britt starts going down. Britt didn't give enough to get over. So Statlander's like, screw it. I'm just going to force this over. So she just forces it over, hits the suplex, avalanche suplex off the second rope. And Statlander goes up top, but she misses the Area 451 splash. Britt goes for lockjaw, but Statlander powers through it and up to her feet, slams her down face first, hits a scissor kick to the back for 2. Britt rolls out of the ring. Statlander misses the pendulum moonsault and splats on the floor, and Britt Baker does basically a I guess I call it a alley-oop curb stomp using the jumping off the ring stairs. Orange Cassidy, the 10 count starts and Orange Cassidy is standing over by Statlander, and when it gets to 8, he bends down and he starts screaming at Statlander to get her ass back in the ring. So she barely makes it into the ring for the 10 count. I heard a chuckle from you.
Yes, because I'm just replaying in my mind Orange Cassidy screaming, because that's not anything that he's ever done in AEW before. And at some point earlier in the match, I think it was Excalibur had mentioned Cassidy had said more to Statlander during the match than they think he's said the entire time he's been signed with AEW.
Yeah, that's pretty funny because I think, well, not he's talked a lot in Road 2, and there was a commercial break that it was all on Fight where he cut a long promo. It was like 2 minutes during a commercial break that he had a promo once, but that was early.
That there was also the debate that he did with Jericho.
Yes, I forgot, and he gave really thoughtful answers.
Yeah, and then there was one part where he just like broke out into like a very lengthy promo about, oh, you thought it would be funny to debate a guy that doesn't talk?
So after Statlander gets back to make the 10 count, Statlander tries the spider crab, but Britt frees a leg and hits an up kick, and then hits a few kicks in the corner, some stomps in the corner. Britt pushes the ref away, and then Britt, Statlander is wobbled, and Britt goes up to the second rope, and she hits what they're calling the Pittsburgh Sunrise, or the Panama Sunrise for everybody else, for a 2 count, and then she hits a curb stomp for a 2 count, and then puts on the lockjaw and gets the submission victory. Little did we know that hitting the whatever sunrise was a prelude for later on in the night.
What do you mean?
Because that's Adam Cole's move.
Hey, I did not know that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, the Panama Sunrise is Adam Cole. Adam Cole does that move. So I figured. Okay. So when I saw it happen, I'm like, oh, that's Adam Cole's move. When I saw her do it, and then they call it the Pittsburgh Sunrise, which was kind of funny because he calls it the Panama Sunrise.
Yeah, and well, they are dating, so it only makes sense that she would pick up some moves from him.
You would hope. So overall, I thought it was a really good match from these two ladies as a regular match. Definitely at the top of each of their lists for a non-lights out match.
Yes, very good match, and Wiki says 11 minutes 34 seconds.
Yep.
The Moxley Kojima match was 11:50.
So decent times on these earlier matches, and I thought it was all good.
Yep.
We had Alex Marvez was with Andrade, and he's asking, because it works out, that he's asking if the PAC's travel issues were his fault, because that had been part of the storyline weeks ago that Andrade's team had canceled limos or rides and all that fun stuff. And Andrade says, "You think I wanted to miss this special night?" And Chavo, "Did you do something?" And Chavo says, "No, we all know why he's not here. He's scared. We offered them our management services. Their flight issues are their own fault." So I thought it was pretty good.
Nope. That was, he asked the other guy first, and then he asked Chavo, and Chavo said, "I don't have the telephone number for American Airlines," assuming that he had booked his ticket on American.
Yes.
And then went on with the, like, we've offered them blah, blah, blah. But yeah, just that line about, I don't know the telephone number for American Airlines.
So, taking a little bit, it kind of worked out because they had this storyline going already, and then PAC had travel issues, so it worked right into the storyline, and they're like, oh, well, we might as well use it.
Yeah, and since they mentioned that they're having a match, what is it, Rampage?
Yeah.
It leads me to believe that maybe it's not because of the COVID whatevers, which was my original thought. Oh, PAC can't get to the U.S. because there's travel regulations from the U.S. to the U.K. and vice versa. So maybe it's COVID, but if he's wrestling later this week, maybe that's not it, and it actually was a legitimate travel issue.
Yeah, or he just had to take a weird route to get out to, like, something happened. Maybe because of the travel restrictions, like, there were less flights and whatnot, and he couldn't get out.
Yeah.
Cool. So next up we had a crazy match. I wrote so much on this. I'm going to try to skip some of it because I wrote a ton.
Before the crazy match, we had a live musical performance of an entrance theme.
Yeah. You want to cover that?
I don't remember the names of the people that were doing it, but live performance of the Lucha Bros entrance. And you could actually hear what the lyrics were, where most of the time when the Lucha Bros theme plays, the only parts that I can catch are Mexiking, Sierra Meadow, and something about the ring.
Yeah.
But yeah, really good entrance. They were wearing like Aztec, Inca inspired headdresses over top of the masks. They had like these varsity leather jackets that had Lucha Bros written across the front. Very good live performance of a entrance.
Yes, way better than Cody's live entrance because that was awful. This one, they were in key to the music and on time.
Yes, yes.
They were on beat and in key.
And again, you could actually understand what the lyrics were.
Yep. I have to say, the star of the show was Nick's facial hair. So douchey. Super douchey.
Yeah, where he had like either side of where the flavor saver would be, he had dyed like a blondish color. He had dyed his hair, and when this match was being announced at the beginning, they said no time limit. Where normally tag title matches have 60 minutes, my thought was, oh, I guess because it's in a cage, they don't want to have a time limit draw. Not that we were going to have to worry about getting anywhere near the 60 minutes on this. Mm-hmm. But the fact that it was announced as no time limit just sort of added a little bit extra of, oh, wow, these guys could fight for a really long time.
Yeah. So this match, I'm gonna cut pieces out here, and we'll jump forward in spots. But I have to say, I like AEW's cage design because it actually goes down past the ring apron and doesn't sit on the ring. It actually sits on the floor and just runs right next to it. Which means they get
you've got the entire usage of the apron.
Yes, plus a little bit more as Penta later went farther and got stuck between the cage and the edge of the ring, which is just one little thing that they can utilize with this unique cage design. And it's also significantly taller than most cages.
Significantly taller, and they have like some kind of weird pipe stuff around the four corners plus around the top.
Oh, one of the guys who was singing Lucha Bros entrance was Mikey Ruckus, who does most of the music for AEW. I didn't know he actually sang. I thought he just played guitar and music and did music, instruments and whatnot. And the other, sorry, I'm gonna totally butcher. Mulas de Gallo.
Gallo. The L. It's a double L. Yeah. I remember it was a double L in there somewhere.
Yeah. All right. Let's see where we are. Okay, so, and because of the design of the cage, they had a cameraman in the cage.
Yeah. I did notice that for this match, they did not have the GoPros or whatever it was on top of ring posts like they normally do.
No, they did.
And they did later.
No, they actually, in this match, they did have a shot from them.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I guess I was just thinking that all of the inside the cage shots for the cameraman, because the only time you actually saw the cameraman was from outside.
No, yeah, no, it was on the opposite ring post where the camera. So the cameraman was posted on to the hard cam, the front right, and the post-mounted camera was on the left.
Okay.
So there were some shots because I recognized one going straight from the cameraman to the post shot. That's and of course the post shot isn't as good as the rest of the cameras.
Okay.
All right, so let's get into the actual match. They start off going right into a hockey fight. And the Bucks start climbing the cage for some reason. I don't know why. So Phoenix hits an alley-oop drop kick to the both of them. He hits a springboard Rana. Penta drop kick to the ass. We get a thrust kick to both of the Bucks. And the Bucks are thrown into the cage a bunch of times. At one point, Matt has gotten a hold of a chain from somewhere. And he starts choking Phoenix with it. Matt power bombs Phoenix into the side of the ring. Penta gets stuck between the cage and the ring, and he gets kicked there a few times. Penta,
the chain.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know where the chain came from, because one of the Jackson brothers, I forget which one it was.
It was actually, now that you say that, it was Nick who was wearing it. He
had like where a belt would go, he had a chain as the belt, but it wasn't tight enough to actually work as a belt.
Nice.
I don't know if that's what he used or if it was his necklace, because I saw later on he had a necklace on that looked very similar to the chain. So he may have just put the chain around his neck as a necklace.
That could be too.
Later.
Yeah.
But yeah, like he definitely wore it into the cage.
Phoenix,
unlike something that would come into play later.
Phoenix and Penta thrust kick each other in the foot because the Bucks move out of the way. Matt hits a flip over stunner. Phoenix hits a double rolling cutter, and Penta hits a made in Japan for a 2 count. We get a massive "This is awesome" chant. And Phoenix gets tossed into the cage. Matt puts on a sharpshooter on Penta. Nick hits a German suplex on Phoenix on the apron. We get the Senton Atomico on Penta for a 2. Bucks do the stuffed tombstone Senton combo on... and then they actually cover both guys, so we get a double count.
Is that the thing that I referred to as the Senton Melcher Taker?
Yes.
Okay.
Basically, it's the Indie Taker, but Nick does a foot stomp to the guy's ass and then falls backwards into the senton. That's that spot.
Senton Melcher Taker. Senton Melcher Taker.
Yeah. There's a loud Lucha Brothers chant. I don't think I've ever heard a Lucha Bros chant before. Like, specifically Lucha Brothers. That was the chant.
Yeah, I now that you mention it, I can't recall.
Bucks miss a BTE trigger and kick each other. Phoenix gets out of a Meltzer driver attempt, and they both kick. They kick both of the Lucha Brothers in the balls. They hit more bang for your buck on Phoenix for 2. Penta breaks it up. The Bucks are tearing at the masks, and Don was on commentary, and Tony is just getting pissed off of him. Tells him to cut the bullshit. Don, you're full of shit. and Excalibur's like, we apologize for the salty language, and Tony's like, I don't apologize, which was great. And then Cutler is on the outside, and he has like a doctor's bag, a little like medicine bag, and he tosses it over the ring or over the cage into the ring, and Matt catches it, and he sits down and he takes off his shoe, and he opens up the bag. But
so, since it was labeled, medical bag or whatever. And Cutler's always pulling out the cold spray from something. I had assumed there was cold spray in the bag.
I didn't know what to think was in the bag.
And then, well, when he pulled off his shoe, I was like, all right, is he going to spray his foot and then hit, one of the Lucha Bros in the eye with the cold spray? But no, that is not what was in there.
Matt takes off his shoe. He opens up the bag and pulls out a shoe with thumbtacks all on the bottom. There is a "you sick fuck" chant. And then
he licked the thumbtacks.
Yes.
He licked them.
Matt gears up to kick Phoenix, but Penta puts himself in harm's way. Penta is already bleeding like crazy. His mask is like torn open in the middle, and Matt kicks Penta in the face while he's on his knees protecting his little brother. There's an asshole chant. Then Penta gets thrown into... So Matt sits up on the top rope and just holds out his foot. Penta gets thrown into the shoe, and Matt holds his head against the shoe while Nick runs in and does a running boot into Penta's head into the shoe. And then Phoenix gets to his feet. Matt hits a super kick with the tacks. And then Nick hits a poison Rana. And then they hit the BTE trigger on Penta. And Phoenix breaks up the pin. And the crowd goes absolutely nuts. The crowd was so hot at this point. Matt takes off the shoe, puts it on his hand, tries to punch Phoenix with it. But Phoenix ducks. And then starts to go crazy, hitting Matt and Nick with tons of strikes, and then hits Nick and Matt with the tack shoe. Matt and Penta, they all end up on the apron. Matt is with Phoenix and Penta with Nick, and they hit pile drivers on their opposite brother. Matt and Penta fight on the I wrote they fight on the top of what? I'm guessing
top rope.
Yeah.
Top rope.
Penta hits Matt with a destroyer off the top rope. Everyone is bleeding at this point. Everybody is down. There is a fight forever chant, and they all slowly get up, and then they all go in a circle, hitting a round of chops and then hitting a round of super kicks. And you think Matt is the last man standing, but nope. Everybody pops back up, and we get a bunch more super kicks. Phoenix hits the spinning heel kick out of the ropes, and then they hit the fear factor on Nick, and Matt breaks up the pin. Penta points Phoenix to the top of the cage, and Phoenix starts climbing. He gets to the top. Nick follows, and Phoenix does... Normally he does the running top rope kick. Well, this time he did the running top rope of the cage kick to Nick, and Nick goes back down, and Phoenix hits a cross body off the top to the Bucks and Penta as well. And then they hit the assisted fear factor on Nick and get the pin. And we have new AEW Tag Team Champions, the Lucha Brothers, and this crowd just exploded.
Yeah. This match was absolutely insane. The Super Destroyer, I'm still baffled that there was a Super Destroyer. I know they called it an Avalanche Destroyer, but it was off the top turnbuckle. I'm calling it a Super Destroyer. And that didn't end the match. And then the crossbody, I knew somebody was flying off the top of the cage. I didn't expect it to be a flying crossbody onto three guys, but that's a lot safer than what I was thinking they would do.
Yeah, that's the safest thing they could do off the top. And he was fine. There was no risk of him getting hurt with being caught by three guys.
Yeah.
After the match, they're celebrating, and Penta is waving somebody in the crowd to come down. And I'm like, what the hell is he? I'm like, what the hell is this? And eventually he gets down and he's over by the timekeeper's table, and this little girl runs out, and it's obvious his daughter. She's what, like 6 maybe? And he is covered in blood. He is bleeding like crazy, and he hugs his little girl and kisses her on the cheek, and it's like, dude, you're getting your blood all over and basically the rest of his family, I think it looks like he has like 3 daughters and a wife.
Yeah.
And that was it. They just wanted to know that dad was okay.
Yeah, and that moment right there, very, very slightly reminded me of Mick Foley's family checking on him after the Mankind Rock I Quit match, when Foley took like 418 unprotected chair shots to the head.
Yeah.
And he was just busted completely open. Only in this case, the family didn't seem to be completely fearing for their loved one's life, where the other one, Foley was not good after that match.
Yeah, this is more like, oh, that's just dad on a normal weekend.
Yeah.
So there we go. New AEW Tag Team Champions.
And they are now the first tag team to hold the AAA and AEW tag titles at the same time.
Yes. So we move on to the Women's Casino Battle Royale, and we kick off the first round of ladies with Hikaru Shida, Sky Blue, Emi Sakura, the Bunny, and Abaddon. They started off.
And can I just say real quick, I like the way they're doing the entrance now. Instead of having all 5 people come out at once.
Mm-hmm.
Doing individualized entrances, but everybody is the first one was, I think, the clubs.
Yep.
And then they had here's the 5 people that are the hearts, and here's the 5 that are the spades, and here's the people that are the diamonds.
Yep.
Where the very first Casino Battle Royale, they just had the group of people come out at the same time. Except Orange Cassidy came in very late because he's the king of sloth style, and he's just slow like that.
Yes. Yeah, they started doing this format a couple Casino Royales ago. This isn't the first time that they've done it, but yes.
I thought they did previous, but I couldn't remember, but I am just glad that they're doing it this way.
Yep. So Shida and her trainer, Emi Sakura, started off. They exchanged backbreakers. Then they both hit backbreakers on Sky Blue and the Bunny. Sky Blue and Bunny fight. Abaddon eliminates Sky Blue, and everybody is pissed off because she is the hometown girl. And she was put in this match because of her reaction at Rampage, and that's why Julia was taken out. It was a spur-of-the-moment decision from Tony.
Yeah, and wasn't, in storyline, Julia Hart beat up so she couldn't be in?
Yes, they beat her up on Dark.
Yeah. The special Dark that aired on Saturday.
Yes. Jade and Nyla Pillmanized her leg.
Okay.
Yep. So everybody's mad that Sky Blue is gone. I'm guessing they didn't restructure the match, and this was Julia's spot originally. So they just had her go out how Julia was originally going to go out. So I think that's what happened.
Probably.
Bunny tosses Abaddon. We get the next group. We have Anna Jay. She goes right after the Bunny. Kira Hogan, Kylan King, Diamante, and Nyla Rose. Emi Sakura is eliminated by Shida. Nyla tosses Kiera Hogan and then King. And then Nyla tosses Shida to a round of boos. Massive boos for getting rid of Shida so quickly. There was a few head-scratching eliminations in this match. This being one that you toss the former women's champion so quickly.
Yeah, and the other one, I forget exactly who it was, but the camera didn't catch it.
Riho.
Which, yeah, but that just adds a little bit more realness to it instead of, oh, make sure camera 3 is in place because this is about to happen.
It would have been nice if they showed like a replay from the hard cam though.
Yeah.
So you could at least see what happened. Because I just assume who eliminated her. We'll get to that in a second. Diamante and Nyla want to work together, and they have a little handshake, but it lasts about 10 seconds, and they start attacking. They start fighting. We get our next group. Thunder Rosa is in. She goes right after Nyla. Penelope Ford, Riho, Jamie Hayter, and Big Swole. Ford ends up hitting Anna Jay with a stunner. Big Swole goes right in right after Diamante, and then Jamie Hayter eliminates Riho. And this is another one. It's like Riho was in there for like 2 minutes, if that, and she gets tossed. And that's the one the camera missed. And I'm pretty sure it was Jamie who tossed her.
That's what the wiki entry says.
All right, cool. Big Swole tosses Diamante. Jamie tosses Big Swole. And then Thunder Rosa fights off Nyla and Jamie. Rosa hits Nyla with a massive drop kick and then one on Jamie as well. Next group comes in. We have Ty Conti. She goes after the bunny, hits her with a TKO. Red Velvet in. She spears the crap out of Jamie. Lila Hirsch comes in. She throws a bunch of people around. Jade comes in. She goes after Hirsch. And then Rebel is the last person in who's been announced. Red Velvet tosses Rebel. Bunny eliminates Anna Jay. Ford... Bunny is eliminated by Anna Jay, and then Ford kicks Anna Jay off the apron, so she's eliminated as well. Jade just picks up Lila Hirsch over her head and just throws her out onto a bunch of refs and some other ladies who had already been eliminated. And then we get the Joker, and before the countdown is even started from 10, they are chanting Ruby Soho.
Yes.
And it is indeed Ruby Soho, and the crowd goes crazy. And
if it was Batista, they would have rioted.
She goes right after Jade. Thunder Rosa uses Ruby as a step up to hit a Rana on Nyla. Ty throws Ford around. Jade throws out Jamie Hayter. Penelope and Ty Conti kick each other. Jade tosses Red Velvet, and then Nyla eliminates Jade to a round of applause, which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, thank you, Jade. Goodbye. Ty eliminates Ford, but then Nyla eliminates Ty, and then Ruby, Nyla, and Thunder Rosa are the ones who are left. Thunder Rosa low bridges Nyla, and then drop kicks her off the apron. So it comes down to Ruby and Thunder Rosa, and the crowd is going nuts, and they stand off facing each other. They're yelling at each other, and then they start chopping the crap out of each other and slapping each other. They hit running elbow strikes to each other. They both end up on the apron, and then Ruby pushes Rosa into the turnbuckle, hits a head kick, and Rosa falls off the apron, and Ruby Soho, in her debut, wins and will be getting a title shot against Britt Baker.
Really good match, and I wish I would have been able to actually know what Rosa and Ruby were yelling back and forth at each other when they started their face-off. And then I started thinking, I really want this as a one-on-one match. And then, yeah, the apron spots, I always, when there's a battle royal of any kind and people are fighting on the apron, I don't understand why they don't just, like, step back in the ring. But good match. Very surprised that the match was only 22 minutes long.
Yeah, there were only 3.5-minute increments between groups. So the first group is already in. So 3 groups plus the Joker. So it's four mixes. So that's 12, 14 minutes of countdown time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so this was the second longest match. The Lucha Bros and Young Bucks went 5 seconds longer.
Oh, that's actually kind of weird because I thought one of these matches felt like it went forever.
Yeah, and then after the match, as Rosa is going to the back, there's a camera that's sort of like showing her face, and she does not look happy. It appears as though she says, like, that was supposed to be me. So they're definitely building up to a Thunder Rosa Ruby one-on-one. And at some point Rosa will wind up getting another title shot.
Yeah. I'm still saying Thunder Rosa takes the title off of Britt at Revolution in the winter.
Okay.
That's kind of what I've been going with ever since Britt won the title. Thunder Rosa takes it from her at Revolution.
Okay.
I don't know how that happens, but that's what I'm saying. Next up, we had MJF versus Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho's career on the line. And MJF trolls us with the old Y2J countdown and his original pyro. The original, just the explosions coming up. And on the screen, it comes up Jericho's last match. And then MJF's music hits. Such a good troll.
This is one of the best uses of a troll entrance that I've ever seen.
Yes.
I'm a little disappointed that they didn't do the troll entrance on that first episode of Rampage. Could you imagine how much heat MJF would have if when Cult of Personality started up?
Oh, second episode of Rampage.
Yeah, second. If MJF would have walked out,
yeah,
instead of CM Punk,
yeah, the place would have friggin' burned to the ground.
Yeah.
We have Fozzie's guitar player plays Chris Jericho to the ring, and the crowd sings, though the crowd is not in time and starts to lose where they're going. They get it together just at the end of it and finish up the song, but the crowd did not do their part on this one.
Yeah, they were not as well rehearsed as
the acapella version.
Yeah, I forget where they were when that happened. Yeah, but definitely not the Jacksonville Children's Choir, as JR likes to call them.
So MJF, the first thing he does, he rolls out of the ring and grabs Jericho's vest that he had put in the corner, and he wipes his ass with it. Then they finally lock up, and there's an asshole chant directed at MJF. They try to shoulder tackle each other. Jericho knocks down MJF, and they throw drop kicks at each other, but both miss. And then they start to throw hands. Jericho tries for the walls of Jericho. MJF tries a roll up out of it for a 2 count. They fight on the outside. MJF is thrown through the barricade. They fight out into the crowd a bit. Jericho grabs one of those posts that they use at the bank to separate rows with the little pull-out lines, and he throws it at MJF's head.
I think it's called a stanchion.
Yeah, that's what. I don't think if I said stanchion, I don't think anybody would know what that is.
Yeah,
I've never heard it called that, and I didn't know that was the name of it.
Yeah, it's also the thing that at the really fancy clubs they'll have with the little velvet rope.
Yeah.
And you've got to, be somebody special, and then they remove the velvet rope.
This one was probably gimmicked a little bit and was unweighted because he just threw it and it hit the base hit MJF right in the head. And if that was like a regular one that usually has like a metal heavy base, that would have hurt like hell.
Yeah.
Where is we here? Yeah, get back in.
They're getting back into the ring.
Yeah, they get back into the ring. Jericho hits the springboard drop kick to MJF on the apron. He goes for a baseball slide. MJF traps him in the apron skirt, and MJF starts working the arm. MJF hits a vertical suplex for a 2, starts biting Jericho's hand. Jericho hits a suplex, some chops, and then a chop to the throat. Hits a bulldog, butterfly backbreaker for a 2 count. MJF stomps on the arm, and then arm drags Jericho into the turnbuckle, or basically kind of whipped him into the turnbuckle upside down. MJF hits a heat seeker on the apron, and Jericho has to answer the 10 count, and he takes the entire 10 count to get there. They go back outside right away. MJF goes for the springboard moonsault to the floor, lands on his feet. Jericho moves out of the way. And then Jericho picks MJF up and hits an apron bomb. So this takes a toll on MJF's back, which comes into play for the rest of the match. They throw strikes at each other. Jericho goes up top. MJF, when he comes down, it looks like he's probably going to go to the double sledge that he's been using, but MJF hits him with a code breaker. MJF tries to pick up Jericho, but his back gives out and he can't do it. Jericho tries the walls of Jericho again. MJF hits an up kick. Jericho drops MJF, hits a lion salt for a 2. There's a "you still got it" chant, which finally gets some excitement into this match, because this match felt like it was going on forever. At this point, yeah. I was like, this is an extremely underwhelming match.
Yeah, it did seem to drag on, and this is one of the matches where I was thinking, if it was on Dynamite, it would, the crowd would be a little more into it, but I think because it came right after the Battle Royal, the crowd was, the Battle Royal and the cage match, the crowd might have been a little exhausted at this point.
Yeah, this match probably should have happened before the cage match.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are we here? Jericho takes the 10 count. "You still got it" chant, which finally gets the crowd into this match. Jericho hits 10 corner lariats, and then he gets up and hits 10 punches in the corner. He goes for the top rope Rana. MJF turns it into a sit-out powerbomb off the top, which hurts MJF's back, and he is screaming in pain as well. MJF sets Jericho up top. Jericho pushes him off and then hits a code breaker off the second rope for a 2 count, and Wardlow starts to make his way down to the ring, and everybody starts booing, and then Jake Hager comes out to make the save, and he cuts him off, and he fights with him to the back. But there's a bunch of this was actually the genius of this, to give this context of why this happened. I will come back to it in a second. The ref Aubrey is watching what's going on the outside. MJF hits Jericho with the bat behind the ref's back, hits a Judas effect, goes for the pin. 1, 2. Jericho gets his foot on the rope, but Aubrey does not see it. She counts 3.
And I was partially correct.
You were partially correct. But a bunch of refs had to come out because of Jake and Wardlow fighting. So Paul Turner was out there and saw that Aubrey messed up. And he let Aubrey know, hey, his foot was on the rope before you counted 3. So she's like, really? Okay. So they restart the match. So I like how they had
Paul Turner is the head referee.
Right.
So he's got a little more sway than if it was just Remsburg.
Yes. So I like how they set it up for a reason for the ref to be at ringside because they were dealing with the Wardlow situation. I thought that was really genius how they did that. So they restart the match. Jericho tries a few roll-ups. Jericho...
As soon as they announce that the match is being restarted, MJF loses his shit.
Yes.
No! You can't do this! Ah! Yeah.
It looked like after... Actually... for people who don't pay attention, but Aubrey is usually like the star of the match because her facials are so good. When MJF was getting in the ring, she had to hold the ropes open for him, and she was like rolling her eyes. It was hilarious. But after she counted the 3 here, it looked like she wanted to start crying, which was great because she's like, I just ended Jericho's career. It looked like she wanted to start crying because of what just happened.
And then she had great facials when MJF made her take the diamond ring off of his pinky as well.
Yes. So Jericho tries a few roll-ups after the match starts. He finally gets on the walls of Jericho for the first time in this match. The crowd is finally hot, and MJF starts going towards the ropes. Jericho drags him back to the center. It looked like he wanted to go back for the Lion Tamer, but for whatever reason he couldn't. So he just cranks back on it, and MJF taps out to Jericho, and Jericho's career does not come to an end on this night.
19 minutes 30 seconds was the time on this, but it felt so much longer.
Yeah, this is exactly what I wrote down for the next 2 seconds. All of the inner circle come out to celebrate. The end didn't really make up for the rest of the match.
Yeah.
This match was underwhelming, except for the last, 4 minutes.
Yeah, I would say that's about right. Although the brawling outside was okay, and stuff played into the ending, this match did not need to go this long.
Yeah, basically, if they cut off and just put 2 minutes and then went to that apron bomb spot and then go from there, this match would have been so much better.
Yeah, and considering that Moxley Kojima only went 11:50, the Jericho match did not need to go 19.
Definitely not. But all of the inner circle come out to celebrate, and that was that. Jericho's career is not over. Next,
yay, I guess.
Next up, we had Darby Allen versus CM Punk. Darby has one of his artsy videos before his big matches that he usually does. This time is a helicopter lifting a body bag in the air, dangling underneath the helicopter with "Best in the World" written on the side. And Darby is in the helicopter, and then he jumps out of the helicopter past he falls out of the screen past the body bag. And then his music hits. I'm assuming it was a foam pit or water that he jumped into.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I kind of zoned out for a little bit, so I didn't really pay attention to Darby's entrance.
He was going feet first, so I'm guessing it was water, because if you're going into a body bag or a pit, you would want to land back first. So
yeah. And of course, CM Punk got a huge pop from the hometown Chicago crowd.
Yes. So before Darby comes down to the ring, actually he comes out onto the ramp, and Sting says, "You got this," and fist bumps Darby, and Sting heads to the back. Darby skateboards down to the ring. He gets into the ring, does his poses, and then he sits in the far right corner and just sits there watching CM Punk. Well, CM Punk makes his entrance and he just stays sitting in the corner, and CM Punk is standing, but then he decides, I'm going to sit in the middle of the ring as well. So they're sitting, staring at each other for a bit. They both get up, and then they tie up, and Darby ends up tossing Punk around with an arm drag, and Punk is like kind of shaking, loosening up, shaking off his shoulders and whatnot. Punk hits a heavy shoulder block, and then we have a holy shit chant, CM Punk chant, welcome back chant, and Darby works a hammerlock for a while, tries to roll up Punk but only gets 1 count. Punk hits a body slam on Darby, and Darby kicks out before 1. Darby runs over Punk, and then Darby ends up on Punk's shoulders, scrambles to escape to the outside to avoid getting hit with the GTS. Darby hits the springboard arm drag that he does, hits some coffin splashes in the corner, and Punk drops to the canvas. Punk at one point whips Darby into the corner, and Darby flies through the turnbuckles backwards into the post and just crashes into it. And then I wrote here, nothing's happening. Rest hold city. This was such a letdown of a match, I thought. Other people, I've heard on other things say that this match was good. I'm not even sure it made it to good level.
It was decent. It would probably have been better if it was just a Dynamite match, but since it was a pay-per-view, I think people automatically have higher standards for matches. But that bump that Darby took, where he flung himself between the second and third rope turnbuckle thing, and he bounced back first off of the post. Oh, and that's a square post.
Yeah, so that's a pointed edge.
Yeah, you could see the red line on his back and side. Like, that just looked painful. But yeah, this match went a little bit longer than it probably should have.
Yeah, lots and lots of rest holds, which really took me out of it, especially after seeing all the earlier matches. This match, especially after the Jericho MJF match, is just like 2 slow plodding matches in a row.
Yeah. I did like the spot where Punk finally hit the GTS and it just knocked Darby out of the ring.
Yes, so we will skip forward to that because not much happened before that. So Darby Allin falls out of the ring, and Darby barely makes the 10 count. Punk hits a running rising knee in the corner, massive clothesline. He calls for the GTS. Darby fights out of it with a bunch of elbow strikes. Punk crawls to the outside. Darby hits his massive high-speed running dive that he does. Darby goes up top, hits a senton to Punk on the floor. He throws Punk back inside the ring, goes up top, gestures like Punk does for the go to sleep. He goes for the coffin drop, but Punk sits up a la Undertaker style, and Darby crashes and burns right behind him. He picks up Darby for a GTS. Darby catches the leg and gets on the Last Supper pin, but Punk kicks out. And then Darby tries something. He gets up sitting on top of Punk's shoulders, but then Punk moves him quickly into position, hits the GTS, and gets the pin. I wrote here, it was okay. And then I'm not sure what Punk said into the camera, but it was something along the lines of, in case you fucking forgot.
Yeah, and then there was something else. I think when he was going back up the rope or up the ramp, I could definitely read. He said, "I'm back, motherfuckers."
Yes, he definitely did that.
16 minutes 40 seconds.
Yeah, so the match was fine, but it was slow and plodding for the type of match that we're kind of used to on AEW, and having 2 back-to-back matches like that, definitely problematic. So this match was either it wasn't good or is a victim of placement, with MJF Jericho also being a victim of placement. So I don't know if they just like compounded each other's problem, or if they were separated, that it might have gone over better.
Yeah, one of these was the first match, and then one was halfway through
before the cage match.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the match after this was Paul Wight, QT Marshall, which I'm fine with having that match just before the main event, because like it's good to have a little bit of a lull, but not 3 straight matches that have a bit of a lull.
Yeah, so this match was fine. After it was over, I believe, from what I've heard, this was not planned. Sting made his way down to the ring to check on Darby, and then holds out his hand talking to Punk, and that was not planned. They just did it. And they both check on Darby. Then the crowd chants for Darby, and then Darby and Punk shake hands as well. And I believe CM Punk said to Sting something along the lines of, "This really means a lot to me," when he came out to shake his hand, and Sting said back to him, "It means a lot to me as well." So kind of a cool moment that was unplanned. And also I heard the reason why QT Marshall Paul Wight was here was in case they had to cut the match for time.
Okay.
So they put it late, but and if they were expecting a bigger response for it, it would be a good buffer match to give people a come down before the title match. So I think the placement was correct, but I think just the 2 matches running up to it just did not work. So
yeah. And during the very first CM Punk interview, or not interview, but like when he came out and cut his first promo, he said he's got a lot of scores to settle in the back.
Yep.
Talking about guys in the back. Do you think he will have a brief feud with Colt Cabana?
I have no idea. I don't know what their relationship is like at this point.
Next?
No idea. Yeah.
Yeah, like I know that they had that lawsuit where I there was some kind of argument over paying the lawyer for the WWE defamation, and like they definitely had a falling apart at one point. So I don't know if they want to sort of bring that back up. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. Next up, we had QT Marshall versus Paul Wight. This was Marshall. Get it right. Aaron Solo and Nick Comoroto, they get tossed before the bell by Wight. Wight hits a gut punch, tears the shirt from QT's chest to hit a bunch of giant slaps, chops, whatever you want to call them. QT drop kicks the hip, hits a few punches when Wight is kneeling, drop kicks him, and then Wight tosses QT out of the ring with a kick out, and then runs over QT, massive lariat, massive backdrop. Aaron and Nick get taken out again, chokeslam to QT, Wight gets the win. It was quick and mostly painless for the watcher.
3 minutes. QT was very sparkly.
I do like when Paul Wight reached down and grabbed Aaron by his shirt and just pulled him up from the floor into the ring. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, that is not something you see very often.
Nope. They run down what we have for Dynamite coming up on Wednesday. We're going to have Monaro, Suzuki, and Jon Moxley. And they do a little bit of a promo with Jon Moxley. It basically says, my old friend Suzuki, we like inflicting pain on each other. It's the best drug out there. In Cincinnati, we bury bullies in the ground. And you're a bully. That was about it.
Yeah.
Ruby Soho will be making an appearance, and Dustin Rhodes versus Malachi Black. And I'm sure there's going to be a few other appearances once we get there, because they couldn't announce them at this point because they haven't come out yet. We have Andrade Pac on Rampage. We have a Malachi Black video here promo. He says, "See, Dustin, I don't want you to be calm. I want you to be mad, because the angrier you are, the more predictable you are, the easier it will be for you to slip up. And, well, you're going to be in the ring with me. So think about all the reasons you're mad. Arn, Brock, Lee, your baby brother Cody. I left him laying so bad he still hasn't come back. Just be ready to pay the bolt man's toll." Good stuff.
I expect Cody to come back at the conclusion of that match.
Trey was talking about that the filming for the Go Big show is still going on, and it's not supposed to wrap this week. So,
I thought it was done, but okay.
That's what Trey said. So if he's wrong, I'm putting it on Trey, not me.
Yeah.
So next up, we have the final match of the evening, and this is Christian Cage versus Kenny Omega. They brought things back on the rails for the AEW World Championship. Kenny's hair dye was running a bit. Did you notice that?
I didn't, because during the Jericho match, I switched to watching on my phone so that I could lay down and then just go to sleep after it was over. I did notice that his hair was fairly blue.
Yeah, it was a mix of black and blue, and he gets his hair wet before he goes out, so there was like a streak of black running down his chest. It's like, Kenny, when you dye your hair, you have to then wash it, so then it doesn't start all bleeding everywhere. That was kind of funny.
Yeah.
So first thing, Omega runs in before the bell for a V-trigger, but Christian sidesteps, and Kenny hits the turnbuckle with it, and then Kenny escapes a V-trigger, and then Omega hits a Rana, sending Christian to the outside. They fight on the outside. Kenny sent into the barricade a few times. Christian hits a crossbody over the post to the floor, and Christian ends up getting whipped into the ring stairs. Omega pulls out a table on top of Christian's body. Dawn is jumped up onto the apron to distract the ref. Kenny does a double stomp onto the table into Christian, which is a move I think he did that in Okada Omega 2. I think that was the match he did that one.
He also, I think, pulled that out against Jericho in their New Japan match.
Got it, yes. Omega, Dawn and Kenny then set up another table on the outside. He tries to suplex Christian through it, but Christian gives Kenny a suplex on the floor. Back in the ring, Christian hits some chops. Omega bounces Christian's head off the mat. Works a loose camel clutch. Gets some chops and a suplex for 2. Christian sets up on the top rope. Omega pushes him off to the floor. Omega on the outside. They're trying to figure out if the barricade is strong enough. Omega jumps up and he tries to do a moonsault, but his feet slip out and he lands on the other side of the barricade, and he like shushes the
cloth thing.
What?
Just slid, like the cloth that they had over the barricade, like it wasn't strapped down at the bottom. And so when he jumped up on that, the cloth just slid.
Yep.
And that's why he fell off. Like, that's definitely going on Botchamania. But yeah, the facial expressions that he gave looking at the thing afterward were priceless.
Yeah, because he's so good, he shushes the crowd. He puts his finger up to his mouth like, be quiet. He turns around, tries to figure out what to do, so he's facing inwards. So then he jumps, does a half twist, and then does the moonsault off the barricade. So it ended up being a cooler moonsault than what was originally going to happen.
Yeah, but just the fact that like he slipped off, and then it's like, oh, all right, ha ha ha, he fell. Oh, he's doing a thing anyway. All right, excellent. And yeah, like you said, it wound up being a cooler move than what he originally planned. And going back to when Omega tried suplexing Christian through the table, I'm glad that when Christian countered, he didn't do the thing that you so often see where it's like, oh, you're going to suplex me through the table? I'll suplex you through the table. And both guys have to like spin around to do the spot. And he's just like, nah, you know what? Screw it. I'll suplex you on the ramp.
Yeah. Omega hits a bunch of slaps to the face. Christian fires back with some of his own. We get a Yushigoroshi from Omega for a 2 count. Kenny goes up top. Christian goes up and follows. Hits a top rope Rana, and they double down. They exchange strikes. Christian avoids a one-winged angel, and Christian hits a bunch of punches. Christian tries to get on the cloverleaf, but Omega fights him off. Christian tries this actually a few times throughout the match to try to get the cloverleaf. Christian does escape the "You Can't Escape," and there was a crowd chant of "He escaped! He escaped!" And ends up hitting a reverse DDT. Christian goes in for a spear. Omega hits the knee, so call back to their last match. Same thing happened in that match. Christian hits a massive swinging DDT for 2. Omega hits some strikes, hits a V-trigger to the back, Snapdragon suplex, then another one. Omega points at him for the V-trigger. Christian gives him the middle finger, so Omega hits another Snapdragon, then a massive V-trigger. Then they are on the apron by the table set up earlier. And Excalibur actually called it Chekhov's table.
Yes.
Which I thought was pretty funny.
Seems to be a fairly well-educated man.
Yeah.
Not just wrestling. Like, in general, like he makes a lot of, like, normal references that aren't necessarily related to wrestling. Like, Chekhov's gun, Chekhov's table.
I'm curious if
something that JR would ever do.
Yeah, I'm curious if at this point Chekhov's table is in the lexicon of wrestling, because I've heard it in multiple places at this point, and I've used that phrase when it comes to a table that's been sitting out there for a while that hadn't been used.
Okay, maybe so.
Yeah, they fight. Omega wants to hit a one-winged angel off the apron through the table, but Christian escapes and spears Omega off the apron onto the table. One of the table legs just shoots up through the table and catches Christian in the side. So it looked like that hurt, and he ends up getting cut open on his ribs. Back in the ring, Christian goes up top, goes for a frog splash. Christian gets his knees up. I bet that didn't feel too good after already having that.
Omega got his knees up.
Sorry, Christian goes for a frog splash. Kenny gets his knees up. Bet that didn't feel good on the ribs that had just taken a table leg to him. Kenny lifts Christian in a gut wrench, but can't follow through because his back hurts. So he hits a V-trigger and then another. Christian blocks a third one and throws a few strikes, but Omega then hits a V-trigger anyways. Hits a ripcord V-trigger. Christian avoids a tiger driver, and he gets on the cloverleaf. Don Callis calls down the Good Brothers, and Gallows gets up on the apron and holds Christian in place, but Christian moves out of the way, and Kenny hits Gallows with a V-trigger. And then Christian hits a kill switch on Omega, but Omega kicks out at 2. And then Christian sets Omega up on the top, and Dawn gets into the ring, and this distracts Christian for a second. He walks down Dawn. Dawn runs out. Christian goes back to Omega. He climbs up the rope, and he's positioning. He wants to hit the kill switch off the top rope, but Omega escapes, and he picks up Christian and hits an avalanche one-wing angel and gets the victory. So Kenny Omega retains his championship.
Yeah, which I think is what most people were expecting.
Mm-hmm. I thought the match was fine. It got things back on track, and this was a much better match than the previous 3, basically.
Yeah, and then the post-match promo.
Yeah, the post-match is where it's at. The Young Bucks are limping their way down to the ring. They both have ice bags taped to them. All the Elite is celebrating in the ring. And then they start beating up Christian some more. So the Jurassic Express come down to help, but they get taken out. Omega hits Luchasaurus with the title belt a few times. And then there's a massive yes chant. So everybody's thinking Brian Danielson is coming out. And Omega grabs the mic and says, "Are you finally getting to understand, Chicago? Best in the world this, best in the world that. I don't care where you're from. I don't care if you're the hometown hero. No one is on my level. I've proven day in and day out, month in and month out, year in and year out. It doesn't matter where I go. The fact of the matter is, when it comes down to this AEW belt, the only people who could ever have a chance of beating me are not here, already retired, or they're already dead." Then the lights go out, and then Adam Cole's music hits. And everybody goes crazy. He comes out. He walks down to the ring. He does the Adam Cole baby, and everybody chants along. And he stands in front of the Elite and says, he's yelling at them, do you remember what you did to me? And then he super kicks Jungleboy just as he was starting to get back to his feet. He hugs the Bucks. The Bucks kiss him on the cheek. And a nice little thing, when I went back and watched, Cole came out of the heel tunnel.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. So that was a little foreshadowing. But when he came down and he was standing off with the Elite, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I know what's about to happen. So
yeah. And, since you mentioned that he came out of the heel tunnel, when CM Punk went up the ramp after his match, he started walking over towards the heel tunnel. And then, like, the crowd is yelling, and then he looks and he points over to the other tunnel, and then points to this one, and then points, and then ultimately goes out the face tunnel. But it was sort of a good thing of, like, audience participation of which one do I go through? Which one?
So Adam Cole gives a super kick to a Jungleboy, and Kenny Omega's like, in the words of Steve Urkel, did I do that? Did you guys really think I was scared? This is one of our best friends. Adam Cole grabs the mic and says, "Who wants story time with Adam Cole?" And then he says, "The Elite is the most dominant faction in the history of this business, and there ain't no chance in hell anyone is going to stop us." And then Kenny said, "And this is what I call a happy ending. So all I have to do now is bid you adieu and say goodbye and good night."
Dun, dun,
Flight
dun,
of the Valkyries
dun,
start.
Dun, 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 dun.
Brian Danielson walks out. The crowd goes crazy. He walks on down to the ring. He walks down kind of in front of the ring and gets into the ring by all the baby faces and helps them up to their feet. and we have a stare down of the babyface group and the Elite, and Kenny Omega drops to the ground, rolls out of the ring, and then they all brawl after Kenny bails. Brian hits a bunch of kicks to Nick, then a suplex, and then the massive running knee. And there's a super loud AEW chant over and over and over. And while the Elite are up on the ramp, you can read Cole's lips and says, "All 4 of you are dead. You're finished." It was great. That was the end of the show. So massive appearances. Suzuki, Ruby Soho, Adam Cole, and then Bryan Danielson all showing up for the first time on AEW, all as surprises. Well, some of them were less kept secret than the others. I did not expect Suzuki. I know I should have, but I didn't.
Yeah, I did not expect Suzuki, and I thought it was funny on, I think it was Thursday or Friday, somebody had reported that somebody that was in the know said that Bryan Danielson would appear unless plans changed. And
yes.
It's like,
so I kind of figured we were getting...
It will happen or it won't happen, which is basically I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yes. So we were expecting Ruby and pretty much expecting Bryan, but then when Adam Cole came out, then I was no longer expecting Bryan. And then when Bryan came out, I'm like, holy crap! Because I was not expecting a double debut right at the end of the show.
I don't think anybody was.
Yeah. So, AEW All Out 2021 in the books. Overall, it was a good show. There were some matches that just went on too long, and just didn't. And I think if they reordered the card, they probably could have gotten it better. Because I think the crowd was just worn out after the cage match, and it took up until the last match to basically get them back. Well, they were really loud for. So I guess they're really loud for Ruby coming in as well. And then, so basically you have those two back-to-back things happening, the cage match and then the debut of Ruby. And the crowd was just like, could not get back into it until the main event, basically.
Yeah. They should have started the match with the card with something other than the TNT title, and then used another non-title match as buffers between the women's title, the tag title, and the Battle Royale.
Yeah, they could have structured it a little bit better.
Yep.
But that was AEW All Out. So anything else you want to touch on from the show, or anything AEW related you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
Great show. If you didn't watch it, definitely find it and watch.
Yeah, I would definitely put this on the watch list. If there's watch the end of the last match and watch the cage match if you don't have that much watching time. The cage match is definitely worth seeing, and then of course the debuts at the end of the main event are definitely worth seeing because they were amazing.
Agreed.
All right. So we're going to wrap it up here after, an hour and 50 minutes talking about AEW All Out 2021. We will, myself and Trey will be back on Wednesday talking the MetLife Dome shows from New Japan. As far as I know, because I'm pretty sure I have to go and do some work tomorrow evening, so I won't be able to do it. So we'll talk about that on Wednesday before Dynamite. We'll be back on Thursday talking Dynamite as always, so be sure to do that. If you're listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live on YouTube and Twitch, so you can come join us in the chat for those shows. Links are in the show notes. There's a link to our Discord in there as well. You can follow us at That's Wrestling 1 with the number 1 on Twitter. You can follow Darryl at Darryl W. Perry on the Twitter as well. So until we talk to you next time, probably on Wednesday, thanks for everybody for watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.